Ignition sequence starts. 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0. Liftoff. We have a liftoff.
Hey everybody, this is the Digital Asset Investor. I've had my office door shut because they've been painting in my hallway today. And so the thought occurred to me that it was possible that the fumes had gotten under my door and that I began to catch a high off of the paint. So if I say anything weird, I'm gonna blame it on that. But I don't think I've smelled too much of it. It really hasn't smelled at all in here. So let's hope that nothing like that has happened. I got a good laugh from Mr. B's tweet here today. One of the points I made last week is that when Mark Carney came out and was talking about on CNBC and was talking about possibly replacing the US dollar as the reserve currency, I made the point at some point that imagine all the tweets that Trump would be tweeting out if he did not know about this before it was said. And that's what tells me that Trump knows all about it. Well, Mr. B's reinforcing that here. He says, no American ally would ever attack the US dollar publicly if the US wasn't in on the deal. It's not like Trump would let anyone get away with that unless it was coordinated. We would have heard that Mark Carney is a failed businessman with an ugly dog, but nothing. And he's exactly right. So I added to this a little bit. It would have been worse. Donald Trump would have called him a little Marky, the loser, who is a lightweight. And then I went on and said, and then he would come out and talk about how fantastic the dollar was. He would say something like, the US dollar is a beautiful currency. It's the greatest in the world. I get a kick out of Trump's use of language and all that. But this right here, if you remember, it cracked me up during the election when Marco Rubio came out there. Marco Rubio, I always felt like Marco, and I'm not weighing in on conservative or liberal or anything like that, but one thing that always made me a little uncomfortable about the Marco Rubio guy is he always seemed a little too polished for his age, and so I was always a little suspect. And when Trump started calling him Little Marco, it totally threw him off of his game. It was some of the funniest election debates that I've ever seen to watch that unfold. I got a true kick out of that. All right. Next, from XRP Trooper, sent me this. I've got two Bond Crip. Bond Crip has been out of pocket, and I think I've got two. Bond Crip showed up here recently and sent me a couple of things, and so I'm glad he's back. I know he had done some vacationing a while back, but I'm not sure if he just got tired, or a lot of people get tired in the space and they'll walk away for a little while, and that's fine. That's healthy for you if that's what you need to do. Santander Group expands use of Ripple payments technology. OnePay FX CEO Cedric Menninger, international payments is a way for us to acquire customers having a painful experience with traditional banking. Transfer Latin America to US. And this is a Yahoo Finance article. The article was barely even written, but I just thought this line here was very interesting. That they are literally able to go to people who to their it says they can acquire customers that are having a painful experience with all these dinosaur banks, and that is good news for Ripple. Let's see next. Bond Crip, Ripple in focus. Q4 2019 would be wild for XRP. Here's why. Following the natural phenomenon of crawl, walk, run, Ripple is achieving its goals step by step. Now, for those of you that don't know, I think that crawl, walk, run was in a memo or something. I want to say it was in a memo at some point of a Ripple, of an XRP transaction. And so it became like a slogan in the XRP community that what Ripple is doing is crawl, walk, run. And so this article kind of shows some interesting highlights some interesting things that would be involved in crawl, walk, run. Ripple in focus Q4 2019. I think you meant could be wild for XRP. Here's why. So let's look what this one person's opinion on what crawl would mean. Establish relations with financial institutions and governments, done. Work with regulators for regulatory clarity, done. Establish payment corridors, in the process. Creating partnerships, governments, financial institutions, and NGOs, in the process, and done. Central banks contract escrowed XRP. This is what Brad Combs has been talking about with the pre-allocation. Onboard financial institutions to use XRP, and they're probably getting some pre-allocation too. Then the walk, the transition of X-current users to X-current 4.0. This is in process too. Start new X-kernel and X-current 4.0. Transition X-current users to X-rapid. Continue the time release of escrowed XRP. I believe all these things have been in the process. Now, what does run look like? XRP used globally for retail purchases. IMF adopts XRP for ESDR. The global unbanked population uses XRP. Increase in Ripple net efficiency with the rise in XRP value. The US and other states use XRP to back fiat and pay the debt. XRP emerges as a supranational currency. XRP serving as the world reserve currency. I believe that we are all on the verge of seeing some variety of what you're reading right there. And I believe we're very close to finding out some of that too. Okay, from Gold Telegraph, consumers are at record debt levels and roughly 1 trillion more than in 2008. This is what happens when you have prolonged zero interest rates. Paycheck to paycheck living. Millennials don't even know what interest rates are. Incompetence in the Federal Reserve. And then it says, retweet if you agree, but it says Dr. Bernanke, they're referring to Ben Bernanke. Dr. Bernanke explains quantitative easing. If we feed the banks enough dollars, something good is bound to come out the other end eventually. That is basically the silly concept. Well, look at this. I've shown you this on this channel before, but if any of you have not ever seen this video, it is one of my all-time favorites. You can go to, the channel's called Male Canoms, MALEKANOMS. This thing's got over 6 million views. It is called Quantitative Easing Explained. If you want to see the absurdity illustrated by a couple of cartoon characters, this is funny. And what else is funny is that because they probably, this is I think one of those things where you can type in words and these characters will say them in computer speak or whatever, and they couldn't say Ben Bernanke apparently that well, so they call him the Bernanke. So I just thought that it was funny, but somehow this came out around 2010, and it is hilarious. You got to go see it. It's hilarious, but it's also just unbelievable that the way that the central banks have done this world is this ridiculous and can be made fun of like this because it's all true. Okay, next we've got this. Johnny Lawrence strikes again. Sweep the leg, Johnny. And this is the guy that put out those. He's hit the scene now. I mean, this guy has really caused a splash in the XRP community on Twitter. So now he says, here's a Ripple animated loop. So he's got a free download as long as you don't use it for commercial use, I guess. But this one he improved on, and he did this one. So this is the one you would want. But this guy is obviously a new talent to the XRP community. All right, now this, every once in a while I'll see something from To the Lifeboats that's just hilarious. Sam I Am, he runs this To the Lifeboats channel. The guy is a really intelligent guy, and so every once in a while he's got one of those minds from my observation. Every once in a while he'll see something, and I don't know if it just irritates him or if he just is in the mood to go at it, but he will lock on to something, and when he does, I laugh, but I feel sorry for the poor Bitcoin maximalist or whoever it is that's talking about something they know nothing about. In this case, It's a guy named Jonathan Morgan, and he wrote this article, Cryptocurrency Analysis. Ripple XRP is dumb. Ripple is dead. Ripple is pointless. He tears this guy a new one, and by the end of this, you will almost feel sorry of poor Jonathan. And do not watch a portion of this video. Watch the whole video, because the last 30 seconds will just it might bring you to tears. It's hilarious. But To The Lifeboats, who is Sam I Am, Green Eggs and Ham on Twitter, give him a follow and a subscribe. The guy was on fire in this one. Great video. In fact, this morning, let me tell you when I heard Sam I Am's video. This morning, the worst thing that can ever happen to the digital asset investor happened, and I ran out of coffee. So I asked my wife, what time does Publix open? And she said 7 a.m. So at 6:55 a.m. I was killing time in my car, and I was waiting for them to open the doors so I could get my coffee fix. And Sam I Am's video was the first thing I heard this morning. And so to the Lifeboats, I appreciate the good laugh. It was, normally I can't laugh before I have my coffee, but today I did. So thanks to the Lifeboats. Michael at VAL5 Links. CoinMarketCap, a major source of data about all traded cryptocurrencies, has set the target date of November 12th to announce a new liquidity ranking system. So CoinMarketCap is going to change the way that they, I think that they rank, the way I read it, so that they rank the exchanges in a different way they're going to have a liquidity ranking system. And I read the whole article, but I didn't totally grasp exactly what they were going to do, but they're going to change it somehow. And as I've said before, CoinMarketCap I don't think is any fan of XRP, so I'm sure they'll figure out a way to do this in such a way that it hurts XRP. That's just me talking. Okay, I hadn't heard much out of Uphold in a while, but this right here is interesting. Exciting announcement, 15 days of crypto challenge. Over the next 3 weeks, we're launching support for 15 new digital assets. Guess what's launching next for your chance to win $50 worth of that asset? Not available in the U.S. or select jurisdictions. And so you can click on this and go to this. They're at Uphold Inc. And I just wanted to mention, Uphold is one of the best exchanges. I've never had a problem with Uphold. They're a U.S. based exchange. But I did want to mention this. Not available in the U.S. or select jurisdictions. This screams that the U.S. regulators just can't get their act together. And so you're seeing more things happen that don't involve U.S. citizens where it comes to blockchain. So here we keep going. But this is where the link takes you. And it's summer crypto giveaway, and it has the days down here. This is the first one. You can guess the first new currency to list and win $50 or whatever. Okay, next from DTCC. Now, for those of you who have been paying attention, DTCC, we've talked about it a few times before. This is a very important piece of the puzzle. Is DLT, this is a tweet from them, is DLT all hype, or does it have real potential? Let me pull something up here. Or does it have real potential to transform FinServ? Hear what industry leaders have to say about how firms can harness the power of emerging tech in this new video series. Now, I watched this, it was like a 3-minute video. This guy, on one of these guys, here's what they said. Here's what he said. I summarized what he said in that 3 minutes. He says, there's a lot of hype around DLT. When they talk about a lot of hype, they're referring, trust me, they're referring to cryptocurrencies. There's a lot of hype around DLT. But once the hype evaporates, there's a core of something that solves a problem for people. But sometimes there, and then he goes on and he says, but after that, after all the hype's over with, he says, but sometimes there's a good use case. And so he basically said there's a lot of hype, and then he says, but it's about solving a problem and having a use case. And then he later talks about how this is a new business. This is about a business model ultimately. Well, a week or two ago, I told you that I compared it to the internet bubble and all of that. And what came out of the whole internet bubble was that it's not just about having .com on the end of your name. It's important that you have a business model. Well, in blockchain, it's not important that you're a digital asset. It's important that that digital asset has a use case. The business model is the use case of today. And so I just went and found that and summarized that. So I wanted to show you where have we heard these terms. I've heard Brad Garlinghouse talk about hype. I've heard he always talks about how what's important is the use case, and it's important that you're solving problems. So I decided I'd go back and look at a tweet. This is from Status. Hype versus reality in blockchain and crypto is way out of whack. Experiments are not a business model. Ripple is going deep with customers, solving real problems and seeing real progress. And I want to finish this video with something from Galgatron that made me laugh. You got to go watch this. Go to Galgatron's feed on Twitter. OMG, I'm going to use this meme every day for the rest of my life about something. Awards versus profits. This one fighter in this ring is just doing flips and back flips and all, and this other guy just stands there and waits, and then he finally just punches the guy one time and he's down for the count. I'm the digital asset investor. I'm not an investment advisor. This is for entertainment purposes only. Please subscribe and hit the like button, and tell your friends and family, if you're going to get in a fight, don't be like this guy. Just stand there and wait for the right punch. Thanks for listening.